Jack, what did you just say?
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 970, directed by Yusuke Suzuki and supervised by Masayuki Takagi. While the preview shows just a bit too much of Oden's janky running for my liking, I really do have solid but reasonable expectations going into this episode, as director Yusuke Suzuki hasn't been letting me down as of late when he was doing it aplenty in early Wano, and Masayuki Takagi's extremely angular and punchy corrections are always a treat to look at, especially on Oden himself. Sure, there's already a bit of reuse in the preview, but I just can't help but be excited when we're even getting to see Roger's death in context of the flashback, so it'll hit home with what we've seen just before this all, even if it is something we've seen in the anime many times before. So will episode 970 shatter what small doubts I have going in to rebound after last week's outsourced episode? Let's get ready to dance and find out. This episode covers the remaining pages of chapter 968 and the first 10 pages of chapter 969, and it doesn't really house any filler at all until we reach the tail end of the second half, where Oden learning about Roger's death is greatly fillerized, showing the actual execution at hand like we've already known and not wasting much time on it at all, which is nice, and also showing Whitebeard reacting to the news of his death while remembering their last conversation, as well as Momo giving Oden the newspaper that breaks the news to him. Now, while of course this filler is appreciated like it always is, to make the big title moment of the episode have a lot more weight and power behind it, it unfortunately doesn't really do much to save the rest of the episode's small pacing issues. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you can definitely tell in small places like having Oden continuously scream Orochi in between cannon lines, and showing Oden's dance in full twice with the same animation both times, that they were a little tapped for time in some places. Thankfully though, everything surrounding it all is actually fairly entertaining and is another good effort for Suzuki, both in overall adaptation and also music choices and voice direction, helping this episode have that bizarre feeling that the chapter did, as it's all still a mystery at this point. So it's really just a small unfortunate caveat to a level of adaptation that fits more in line with what we usually see from this arc. Granted, I feel like they should have also flat out reanimated Roger and Whitebeard's conversation like they did with Roger's death, because it does feel weird swapping from Marineford era color design to Wano color design at the drop of a hat, but it's not really as big of a deal as the two pacing pitfalls, so it's nothing that makes me turn against what is mostly another solid episode adaptation wise, especially when Oden's anger actually feels convincing this time. While not really having as many dynamic and scale-based angles as his colleagues in their boards, just like his direction, I'm still once again pleased by Suzuki's efforts here, all things considered. From the beautiful landscapes of Wano that are buoyed by wonderful compositing and lighting to the comedic way that Oden's dance is boarded in, Suzuki really understands both ends of the emotional core that this episode prides itself on. Sure, there may not be some of the more ambitious parts of his last board with stuff like cool rotations of groups of characters and such, but when every wonderful and gorgeous shot is met with a plethora of well-done compositions at its side, I can hardly complain about getting another pretty good storyboard from Suzuki. One that works pretty damn well with Takagi's cartoony but fierce corrections that bring the differing levels of emotion in this episode to life. Overall, there were definitely some small things that probably make it so I put it a bit behind Suzuki's most recent episode, but this was still a pretty decent and solid episode in every category that didn't feel boring to watch thanks to Suzuki's skills. And that's really all I could ask for from him. And when next week we're finally getting to see the next episode from the power duo of Yasunori Koyama and Masahiro Shimanuki with episode 971, I'm as excited as I'll ever be. On top of Koyama's impactful artistic and color-based direction, there's already a lot to love in a preview that doesn't really show all that much, as Yoichi Mitsui even looks like he'll be on the ride again with his highly detailed character art, and Masahiro Shimanuki's corrections don't scream inoffensive to me when I'm typically not a huge fan of his style. We should be in for quite the treat next week from staff that we can absolutely trust. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and the crocodile of the past probably didn't like cameras.